This is a 2001 Cherokee Sport. It's got the 4-liter engine in it, and it's about to have a 4-liter engine out of it. Threw a rod out the bottom side here. We've got the new motor over here, and this is what you call a long block. It's the cylinder block and head assembled together, but you got to put all the, every stupid little thing you got to stick on there, including the oil filter adapter and just pretty much everything. So it comes with a full gasket set, even though it has a head gasket already installed in it. There's another one in there in duplicate. But what happened is the block got busted out. I want to say it's either right here or right here on the other engine. It's under the exhaust and intake plenum, so you can't really see it. Just empty every pocket. Alright? Alright. Today we're working on the 01 Cherokee Sport, and we're prepping it to pull the motor out. The motor in this one lost lubrication and threw a rod right about there. So you can see it, we've got all of our wiring harness taken off from here. I've got it all tucked up and behind the windshield wiper it's pinned down. Got our throttle cables, cruise control, kick down for the transmission. All of that's been removed. And I pulled the radiator and the condenser on this one for kicks and giggles. Just kidding, you have to. So there's nothing in the front of it. Looks like we've got a pretty good gap on this model, so we should be able to pull that no problem. Thought about pulling the grill because it would be fun and easy and preserve it, but then I thought, meh, what's the point? This is the 01, that's the last body style that they did the Jeep Cherokee, just like the classic Sport. And on this side I've got everything pulled off. We've pulled the AC compressor, we've pulled all the starter wiring, we've pulled the ground back here and the two up front. We've also pulled all of the wiring having to do with the ignition and the camshaft position sensor. We'll have to figure out how we're going to do that as far as timing. As I showed before, the new motor, it doesn't have anything, there's no timing cover on it or any of that, so we'll have to derive timing on it and do the timing covers, which you usually never have to do on a 4-liter. So that'll be fun and exciting, I'm sure. And looks like it's getting pretty empty and about ready to pull. This is about everything that you have to do on the upper end. We've also got all the vacuum lines. There's 3 of them that go across, well 4 if you count this one for the power brake booster. But it's starting to look like it really wants to come out of there. Get on out of here! So we're pretty excited about it. So we've done everything from the top, and now we're working the bottom. From the bottom you want to pull the starter, just 15mm bolts. There's one that comes from the starter side here, and then the other one is in this little recess. Reminds me of my school days. I loved recess. Right there, and then there's another bolt that is a little bit higher up that goes into the engine block here. You can see the part where it mates up in the front. So anyway, you pull that out, and then there's a couple of 18mm bolts. If you have an automatic transmission, you'll need to pull the bracket. You'll see that this is the shift point right here where the shift cable goes to. So the bracket that holds that, there's two 13mm bolts that are up in here. They're out now. You got to pull that and lay your shift cable aside. You can just tuck it up on the side here. There it is. Hello, shift cable. So you got to get all of those out, pull all your bolts, and then once you get your bolts out, you can pull a little half shield. It's not the complete shield. It's just a little section that comes off on the driver's side at an angle there. So once you pull that out, then you can pull out your torque converter bolts. There's 4 of them, and they're 15mm. You just break them loose with a long wrench like this, and then I'll use a ratcheting wrench to pull them out the rest of the way because they are so lathered with Loctite. Alright, we've about got the motor free to come out. The next thing that's kind of tricky is there's 2 bolts on the back side of the bell housing. As you look back here, you can see a bolt. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Isn't zoom wonderful? There's 2 bolts at the top, and they're like a Torx, but they're the E version. And you can see how that's a 6-point. It's a star. It's kind of like a Torx, but it's internal. It's the size 12, the E12. So that's the kind of wrench you'll need. You can get that in socket form, but the socket will never get in there. And where I found that was actually at Harbor Freight Tools. See, it's item 65680, 65680. And it is a 4-piece wrench set, and the set includes the E6, E8, E10, all the way up to E24. So, and that's these wrenches. So that's good to bear in mind, because that was a pain. And even to get that out, the thing that I had to do is I had to set this on the bolt, have it at this angle, and then I took a pry bar that looked just like this, and a big old, you know, dead slug weight hammer like this to hit the pry bar against the end of the wrench to get it to crack free. It was stuck so bad. So, and of course I tried a 10mm wrench before that, and then a 3/8 wrench, and then finally discovered that it was an E12. So good to know. Differential drive shaft. Look up. This one's got double catalytic converters coming off the exhaust manifold, so you have to pull the bolts out there. They're just 15mm. There's 4 total. Okay, so here's where we're at with this engine. We've got the motor mounts pulled up and off. You want to pull those off smoothly. They want to kink, and that middle part will bind diagonally at a 45-degree angle and really bind. So you want to make sure you get a good clean snatch off of that. And then when it comes to the transmission portion of it, this is an automatic transmission, so you got to make sure to clear the flex plate. So I get a pry bar behind the shield, because if you don't get behind the shield, you're no good anyway. Put a couple screwdrivers in there, just stick them in between and pry back, and then leave them in there so that when you go to pull it out, they work like ramps so that the engine comes out this way and it doesn't snag on it. The teeth on the flex plate for the starter engagement will hold the screwdrivers in place, but you just do the same thing over here. Get that free, and you can see that I'm hung up on this one. So what I'm going to do is jack it up higher and kind of tip it up. The way I've secured the motor, I don't know if I'm in love with this way or not. We'll have to see. Ideally, you want to have one point here, and you want to have another point here. Now with this one, it's got that ignition coil that goes the whole length of it, and I don't want to screw up any of these bolts or rip any out. And this is a heavy motor, so I'm going with these beefy head bolts. I've got I skipped the first and the last ones and just go one inside to this one, and the thread size is 7/16 by 14 threads per inch. Swap everything over to this little critter. The port engine stand doesn't have the cojones to be able to grasp this thing. I couldn't get a good bite on it, but just there and there. And with that, so I'll probably have to sling it with the engine hoist in order to get the oil pan on it. Yay. So the next thing I do is I'll walk it, and I'll try to get it up onto the motor mount itself. You can see that I'm starting to tip it in a little bit of an angle, cop a little attitude there with reference to the fender. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of slipping it, and I'm tipping the front up and slipping it up and out of there. So, and you can get away with this with a flex plate. You can't with the manual transmission. The manual transmission, sometimes it's best to just pull it out first and then pull the motor out. You can see on this one I've got it up onto there, and when you look back here, you can see that I'm getting quite a bit of separation between the transmission and the motor. Man, it's a lot of work just to get that little shot for you. You're welcome. You want to check periodically as you come up. Is that going to balance? I didn't spill antifreeze everywhere. As you come up, as I was saying, you want to double check and make sure that you don't have any wires or anything that are holding on and keeping things from coming up. Last thing you want to do is, you know, rip a plug out of socket and create more work for yourself, or rip a fuel line or something of that nature. So this thing, as you arc up, as this comes up, it's going to start to want to lean back. Look at the holes in that block, would you? It's going to lean back, which is going to bring it forward, so you just want to be mindful of that. Alright, we're moving the drain pan again. So I'm going to shove this forward so I'm not leaning on that fancy grill. So I've got the motor up to the proper height to clear. I've got all the wires and everything out of the way. Just pull it out of the way, just like this. What I like to do is kind of steer and pull from the back. You get a lot better result that way. Clear it as best you can from the vehicle. And then before doing a whole lot more, it's a good idea to lower the engine, just because there's a lower center of mass. You're less likely to have an issue with tipping over. So there we go. We are out and we are down. I can see a piston and I can see a connecting rod down there. And when I look through here, I can see right onto the crankshaft. You can see a couple of nicks that were taken out of it right there. I mean, this thing got beat pretty bad. When you look at the oil dipstick tube, I was not able to pull that out and I couldn't figure out why, but it's pretty evident that it's been scored and is no longer round. I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do there. But man, this thing blew up. I'm gonna have to do some oil pan patching as well, it looks like. There's just so much carnage going on all up in here. Can't imagine what it looks like in the cylinder head where the valves are. Anyway, there's a little bonus carnage footage. Jeep 4-liter. It's kind of fun as you look on this and it's got the stamps on it. You can see it says 4-liter, 5, and you see the Chrysler emblem, all the factory stamps. Seems like you never get to see these because they're always covered, you know, behind your distributor or whatever else the case may be. But it's kind of fun to see a block that's all clean and polished up and ready to go. I hope you liked my video. I wasn't able to find another good example. I saw a Grand Cherokee video of somebody pulling a motor, not a lot of detail, not a lot of help. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do one of these. These are such a common vehicle where I live. Maybe they are or aren't where you live, but anyway, just figured I'd make a quick video tutorial on how to pull a Jeep 4-liter out of a regular Cherokee. Hope you liked it. If you do, be sure to click thumbs up. You can hit subscribe above and watch other videos that come along related kind of things like this. And thanks for watching. Cheers.